campfire, strumming along with our favorite lyre. Adventure called a quest awaits, your destiny's in the hands of the fates. But never fear, we're all friends here, we'll have your back when danger's near. Come with us through the pages as we unravel a tale for the ages into the Percy-Verse.
Hello and welcome to the Percy-Verse Podcast. I'm Alisa.
And I'm Anna. Grab your panpipes and find a pink dog in the woods because today we're discussing The Lightning Thief, Chapter 12, We Get Advice from a Poodle.
Because, everyone just finds pink dogs in the woods.
That's what you do in the woods. Pink dogs, trash that people left from parties, trees to fall asleep against.
Mm-hmm. All equally normal things one finds in the woods. All equally
normal things in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I felt like the saddest part of this chapter, overall for me, was like that they can't make a fire. Here's Charlie. For anyone watching on YouTube, my cat Charlie is
Charlie's first podcast appearance.
Trying to get up on the microphone. He has something to say, apparently. But yeah, I feel like there's something, at least when you're in the woods, and if you're on an adventure, you're on a quest, you're on a D&D campaign, whatever it is, like, you can make a fire, and it's cozy, and it's, like, part of the adventure, and you maybe, like, tell a story or something.
Yeah.
And, like, the fact that it's just not, I guess it's summer at least, so it's not cold, but the fact that they can't have that, like, fire out in the woods, I understand, because you're trying to, like, not catch attention, but it was kind of like, oh, man. Like, that's
it does
the thing.
It makes it more like sad and depressing to be, especially because they're in a marshy clearing.
Yes.
So they're just in kind of like, not really a swamp, but just
ish,
like wet. Like,
and
you can't even make a fire that, I don't know, could maybe kind of make it feel a little nicer, like to be where you are. Yeah.
Exactly. So I was like, that's kind of a bummer. But they have gotten some food and blankets from Auntie M's, which is helpful. And I understand them not wanting to attract any more monsters, and like that's smart. And they just kind of got duped by someone, who they didn't realize. And so I feel like,
But their
cautious.
clothes are damp, and they can't even like make a fire to try and dry them off. So they're just trying to like sleep in wet clothes, which is so uncomfortable.
That's very uncomfortable. Yeah. Grover needs to learn like a wind spell that can come through. You blow the pan pipes, and the breeze does come later for Pan a little bit.
Yeah. I wonder if Percy can ever learn how to like extract water, like waterbender style, like if he could like bend the water
idea.
out of all of their clothes, maybe one day he can learn how to,
It would be really funny to do like a crossover where Percy Jackson meets like Katara, or just gets to go into the world of Avatar, and like they get to like trade waterbending tips, and Katara's like, you can breathe underwater, and it's like a whole thing. That's not fair.
And he's like, you can bend blood?
Right.
What?
Huh? She's like, no, we're not supposed to. Oh my god, Dark Side Percy.
Truly.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that would be amazing. No, you're right, that would be really useful. But in this moment, we're still early in our demigod journey. We don't have any, hurricane powers or anything else. No. So we're definitely not bending the water out of the clothes, unfortunately. But yeah, we're, coming off of this really intense experience. Percy has cut off Medusa's head and mailed it to Olympus. They've been left without enough money and supplies, and it's just at the start of the quest. And I feel like that is a little disheartening. They're trying to go to sleep in damp clothes. It's not the best.
They end day one here. Like, they started the quest this morning, and they're ending it going to bed damp in the woods, unable to start a fire, having lost, they grabbed like some money from, what was
at that
in
point
Medusa's
we're like
place,
so much closer to Camp Half-Blood than LA that I'm
yes,
kind of
fully.
like, maybe we just go back real quick, grab some more drachmas, get some dry clothes, and like make a new plan.
Yeah, they're like
no,
just barely outside of New York City.
We're still in Jersey. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's worth it. But that is not how one quests in hero adventures. You have to rough it and make it on your own and be scrappy. Yeah. And I think that's also part of what is relatable about these books. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, what do you do in these situations that are rough and things haven't gone according to plan, which is basically how life is a lot of the time. And then you make the best with what you have, and hopefully one of you can find a poodle somewhere.
Yeah, specifically a pink one.
Again, the very common normal answer to all problems.
Yes, find a pink poodle in the woods.
Yes.
So yeah, they're settling in for the night, and they've like decided to sleep in shifts, and Percy volunteers to take the first watch. So Annabeth curls up, snores as soon as her head hits the ground, which I understand.
Yeah, totally.
I would too. Yeah. And I loved that the description of Grover fluttered with his flying shoes to the lowest. Oh, how do you pronounce that word? Bow?
Bow?
Bow? Mm-hmm. Okay, learn something new every day.
When the bow breaks, the cradle will fall.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
See, I don't even think I've seen that one right now.
Yeah, written out.
But yeah, I kind of love that he like uses his shoes just to be like, I'm actually gonna go.
Yeah. Well, and he can use them pretty effectively. Mm-hmm. Like he got some really good live battle practice in the last chapter. Yeah. And now he's just like, much better purpose. Let me just flitter up to a little tree branch and have a little rest.
Yep. And Percy tries to tell him to like go to sleep. I got it. Mm-hmm. And but Grover really he's in a very like introspective, reflective, like kind of somber mood. This is a chapter where to me he feels the most grown up.
Yes,
in terms of like how he's speaking and engaging with Percy and what they're talking about, because he just says, "It makes me sad, Percy," and Percy is not really understanding what he's meaning, because he's like, what, does the fact that you signed up for this stupid quest? And Grover's just like, no, this, and he's pointing to the trash on the ground and the sky, and he says that you can't even see the stars. He says they've polluted the sky, meaning humans, which I think is it's kind of a funny like an interesting use of like the us versus them, and like him positioning himself as like the us that didn't do something, whereas they, the humans, have like done all these
messed everything up.
Messed everything up. Percy's, I guess you'd be an environmentalist. It's just
you're half
like,
goat. I guess you would be.
He's still in his kind of like funny, a little snippy, like cracking jokes mood, which is not the energy that Grover is in at all.
This is serious Grover.
One bit. This is very
serious, somber Grover.
Yes. Because he glares at Percy and says, "Only a human wouldn't be."
I know. Snap. Dang, Grover is spicy.
Yeah. And then we find out that he's really like just thinking a lot about his searcher's license, and he says, "I'll never find Pan." And again, because Percy hasn't really picked up on the energy.
Can't stop, won't stop.
He goes, "Pam, like the cooking spray."
The cooking spray.
And Grover's like, "No, Pan, Pan. For the great God." And he goes, "What do you think I want a searcher's license for?" Which again, I just have to say, why on earth would Percy know that that's what a searcher's license is for? We're still doing it. We're still doing it.
We can't stop, like, just making this idea, this assumption that, like, Percy knows things that he has no reason or right to be knowing, that you have not told him. Who else would have told him this? Like, we're not done with that yet. We're not done.
No.
I'm tired.
It's still happening.
Come on.
I know.
Yeah.
But then I loved that then after Grover says that, it says, a strange breeze rustled through the clearing, temporarily overpowering the stink of trash and muck. It brought the smell of berries and wildflowers and clean rainwater, things that might have once been in these woods. Suddenly, I was nostalgic for something I'd never known. And I kind of love that, like, in Grover kind of, like, indignantly, like, talking about Pan, it feels like he kind of, like, calls his spirit, like, for
feels
a
like
moment.
It's an invocation, like he invokes his name, and then in response, that energy or essence of nature and Pan, like, breathes through, which I think is also such a beautiful indication that, like, Grover will be the one. Like, it's kind of like a validation of his dream, and, like, that he has the heart and the spirit to do this. And I love too, like, I think a lot of us could relate to a feeling like you've gone somewhere in nature and a breeze comes through, or you see a really tall tree, or like something happens, and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, like you get that sort of the majesty of it, and you feel like, I can't fully comprehend this, but it's beautiful, and like in a like awe-inspiring kind of way. And like, I do think it taps into something so deep inside of us to connect with nature like that. So it is really cool that even though Percy's making jokes and being skeptical and that kind of thing, like, when this comes through, it is so powerful and it is so magical that it stirs something in him that he can connect to, and like kind of pauses him for a moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also, like, for me, it made me think of, like, I used to do this a lot growing up, and like I even still sometimes do it now, but like I would oftentimes in the car just like look out and like try to imagine what the world looked like before humans built like the buildings and like the highways and the roads and all the structures that we have now. Like, I'd try to kind of be like, okay, there nothing has really been built, so if I like copy paste that, like, is that what all of this like used to look like?
Like superimposing it on
and it kind of, it felt like Percy was almost kind of doing something like the breeze made him kind of be like, oh, I wonder what the world was before humans existed in a way where we left like such a large imprint on like everywhere we've been. No, and it's such a contrast to like the garbage and like they have not great smelling water and murky swampy kind of area that they're in the air, so it also is a good place to feel that contrast between that kind of sludgy environment and then this like more clean rainwater, like maybe more crisp feeling. It's lovely. Sorry, Charlie's just really, he's so determined. Charlie thinks so too. Charlie is very into this discussion of Pan, a presence in today's podcast.
He was literally just now lying with his head on the book, and I was worried about how I was going to turn the page to the next one. So
well, if you're listening, I gotta recommend, go over to YouTube, check out this very adorable face of one Mr. Charles. He's so cute.
He is a cutie.
But back to the book. I think this is like, after that breeze, I think that's also what kind of like grounds Percy into like the emotion of the moment and like the space that Grover is in, because he says, tell me about the search, which is like such a lovely invitation to be like, okay,
it's a perfect question.
Like, I'm now finally understanding you're in this much more kind of like serious, somber mood, and like this thing is really important to you, so like tell me about it, share it with me. Exactly. And Grover looks at him cautiously, as if Grover's like afraid that Percy was just making fun of him, but he still like launches into the explanation of like the history of Pan, and in particular like his disappearance. And so he says, the god of wild places disappeared 2,000 years ago. A sailor off the coast of... another one. I didn't look this up. Ephesus? What do you think?
That one I don't know.
Okay, great. Maybe
Ephesos.
Okay, great. And in comments, please tell us how that's actually pronounced.
Let us
know. Heard a mysterious voice crying out from the shore, "Tell them that the great god Pan has died." When humans heard the news, they believed it. They've been pillaging Pan's kingdom ever since. But for satyrs, Pan was our lord and master. He protected us in the wild places of the earth. We refuse to believe that he died. In every generation, the bravest satyrs pledge their lives to finding Pan. They search the earth, exploring all the wildest places, hoping to find where he is hidden and wake him from his sleep. Mm-hmm. And reading that, it's so interesting to think about, like, because we then, right on the next page, learn that, like, no satyr has ever returned alive from embarking on this quest. And it's so interesting because, like, it makes complete sense that satyrs would be searching in the wildest places left on Earth. And it's so fascinating when we learn in Battle of the Labyrinth that he's actually in the labyrinth. Like, he is there, and that's why no satyr has, like, been able to find him, because he's like within the earth, you know, like right. Basically, like, he's kind of encased in it and not, like,
it's kind of like humans
ground.
Have really gone pretty much everywhere. And, like, as I'm saying that, I'm like, okay, from what I know, the places we haven't gone are actually, like, in the ocean. Like, we've explored a very small percentage of the ocean, but Pan is not, like, a creature of water, so I feel like that wouldn't be an option. But I would imagine that some of the wildest places left on Earth are actually oceanic.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, like, very deep down there. We got no clue what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, it really could be anything, and that's a whole other conversation for a whole other podcast.
When you send Percy down there,
I was about to say,
what's going
on.
Percy
needs to do a reconnaissance mission. Let us know what is happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I was thinking as we were reading this chapter, just like how beautifully integrated Grover's storyline is through the books, because even the idea of, like, no satyr coming back is actually coming from, like, where they're getting called to, that we'll talk about in the next book, you know what I mean? And like sort of the trap of that. And so I feel like it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of exciting to be here at the beginning, hearing this, thinking about it, and then thinking through how this arc is going to go and thread through the next books. And, like, even as the big, you know, Chronos piece is moving and all these other pieces are moving, that Grover's storyline is going to just be fleshed out in that way is, like, exciting. And I don't know. I think it's done in a really, really nice way through these books.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. And it's making me think of, I was talking with someone else the other day about, it's unrelated, but it will make sense, the TV show Superman and Lois, and how I appreciate so much in that show that the show doesn't just follow, like, Superman and Lois or, like, the family, like, the characters around them and where they live in Smallville, like, you follow them, you have whole scenes and arcs that you're following that, like, Superman and Lois and their family are not in those scenes. Part of. Yeah, and this made me think of that, like, I really appreciate when in a story we're not just following, like, our main character's arc, but we're also following everyone else's, because then the world feels so much more real and grounded, and also is more engaging and more interesting, because we're following like more robust characters grow and change over time and have their own journeys that they're going on, and, like, there's so much more that you can feel and experience and relate to and, like, get in touch with when you're like, oh, I really relate to this, or, you know, like, oh, I would have never, like, thought of, like, that, like, journey and that experience, and, oh, this character, like, taking this turn is fascinating. Like, even thinking about the fact that, like, Clarice, like, she really gets her own arc, you know, across these 5 books. Totally. And yeah, I really enjoy that and appreciate that when I'm, like, reading stories, and I love that here, like, Grover, Percy, and Annabeth all really have their own character arcs that they go on throughout these 5 books, that even continue, you know, into like future books as
beyond that. Well, and I think setting up Grover and Percy's friendship, that we've talked about in the other chapters is also really smart and works really well, because even when Grover is doing his quest off page and, you know, we're going back and forth, or they're not traveling together, like, it sets up even, like, obviously there is the link that they end up having that's stronger between them, the magical link, but it just sets up, like, the reason Percy would care so much, and it sets up, like, why we would be invested in this throughout the storyline as we're primarily following Percy, you know, through his journey. And I was thinking it's also interesting, like, it's one of the few, I feel like, examples of a quest that isn't a prophesized quest. Like, Grover goes on his own quest over several books that is more of a it feels like a spiritual quest, like when you think about, when you see the way it's written, that, like, how the satyrs honor Pan, and, like, how they don't believe that he's dead and they're going to look for him, and that it's like it really is like a spiritual calling that he has, and he's going on a quest not because, like, he was told by some kind of fated prophecy, but because it's something he believes in and cares about. Yeah. You know, and I think it's, like, interesting also to experience that energy, and also probably for Percy to experience that energy, because he's navigating, like, being told what to do, or feeling like, is he a pawn in all these different places? Yeah. And it could be kind of interesting for him to experience Grover having more of an altruistic quest that comes from inside of him, that could like be an example for Percy to figure out, like, what is he really looking for or after, like, what does he want to believe in. No, I love that so much. I hadn't like ever fully like thought about that before, that like Grover is, I think, like really one of the only characters, like, I was thinking about, like, later, if the sort of chasing Orion, and maybe there's a few other people that are sort of set up to, I don't know, but have in terms of like purposes. a really like multi, like, over the course of like not just one mission, but totally. Like a quest that really is like, you know, years, multiple books in the making. Like, I do love, especially in a world that has the Oracle and is so much about prophecies and quests that are prophesied, like having a character who is going on a quest because they genuinely chose to, and have that like fundamental belief in it, and like a call, like an internal like calling to go do it is very, very cool. And I think also really like I think adds to Grover's arc as a character, like in his confidence and sense of self growing, like that coming from something that he chose to do, and had enough, at least, of that initial like belief in himself to say, because he does, like, he says, I'll be the first searcher to return alive. Like, even with all the times so far in this book that he has doubted himself, we just saw that multiple times at Auntie M's place. Like, he still, when it comes to this, he has this like certainty, kind of like and like unshakable belief that he will do that and he will succeed, and his like fundamental belief that Pan is alive. Like, he never loses that like hope, and it's more so than hope, it's like a feeling of certainty, like Pan is alive, he is not dead, you know, and I just have to go find him, and then everything will be okay. I feel like this is the seed from which his confidence grows throughout the books. And also the idea that, like, even though he knows people who have seemingly not succeeded, he still wants to go. Like, I think that speaks to
I mean, his own, he lost a father and an uncle.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
who
like
left,
a really big deal.
He never saw again until he saw his uncle at Auntie M's as a statue, and that still doesn't shake him, you know, in this moment from being it. I feel like, if anything, it almost like makes him feel even more determined, because he says, Uncle Ferdinand knew the risks, so did my dad. And then he goes, but I'll succeed. And that's what he says, I'll be the first searcher to return alive. Like, he really, it's like it almost furthers his, like, I must do this. Like, and I believe that I will, and I believe that I will be successful.
Totally. That's why it also, like, to me, it feels like a spiritual calling, or like the way that someone has faith in something. Like, that's kind of what Grover has. And yeah, I do think that he might not have confidence in the everyday or in like every single decision or moment in himself, but he does have a bigger sense of belief that gives him confidence in his dreams. And then you think about back to like when Chiron is kind of like poo-pooing his dreams, and you're like, I'm sure Grover has heard things like that before. And so for him to still like hold on to this, I think, it takes a lot. And again, I just am curious, like, as we read through, to kind of follow which of Percy's actions are like for which reasons, right? Like altruistic versus cousin Oracle versus for saving someone, you know, which is often obviously like a motivation for him. And he's going to talk about that here. And I think like that'll be interesting to kind of see and think about everybody who has an influence on Percy and what their motivations are and how that impacts him.
Yeah. And in particular, I am like really curious to kind of track, like, because I do think your point about like it really being like faith for Grover in like a very spiritual sense, like I am curious to track that impact on Percy, to like have someone around him, you know, who has that like real sense of faith, like around
and something.
This. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then we learn what's really sad is Percy asks, like, and your dad, you have no idea what happened to him. And Grover says none. He has no clue what happened to his father. Yeah. He now knows what happened to his Uncle Ferdinand, but prior to this, he wouldn't have known and would have gone on, you know, never knowing had they not like stumbled onto Auntie M's. But it's so sad to just like, that's like, I imagine for Grover, like, it would be so hard to process that grief, because like I'm sure for part of him there's probably that permanent question of like, well, maybe my dad will come back,
he could
you
be
know,
alive,
like
or,
maybe he could be alive out there somewhere. But then even if, you know, maybe by now he's, because we don't know yet what time his dad, like how old Grover was when his dad, when you know, left on his quest. But just like to like not know what happened, to not, I don't know actually what sort of like funeral like ritual. I know like satyrs can like, I think there's a thing about like they can turn into like a plant that you plant, right? They do. But like he wouldn't have been able to like do that for his dad, you know? And that would just be so hard. It's making me think of all of the like in our world examples of all the people who like have like that disappeared or what have you, like who have been lost, and just how hard it is to not have the answer to your question of like what happened, where is this person, like my family, you know, my parent, what have you.
I was thinking about that example too, because this is a really good example of ambiguous loss and grief, which is like, I love learning about the different like subtypes of grief, because I think they're like, really useful for naming like a specific experience that goes beyond the idea of like stages of grief or something. Right. And I think Grover actually probably has some layers to some of those subtypes of grief, because he has ambiguous grief around family members that he doesn't know what happened to them, which is like it can be hard when you're like, do I grieve? How do I grieve? Like because you're not sure if that person's alive or dead or what have you. But also disenfranchised grief, which is a grief that isn't validated by others around you, society at large. And like, as we see in his exchange with Percy and like how he generally feels humans, you know, approach the topic, like I'm sure that Grover also has a sense of disenfranchised grief, where like the deep grief he feels for the environment and nature is something that is disregarded by a lot of people. And even at Camp Half-Blood, I could imagine feeling a disconnect from like campers or other humans or just like a lot of other individuals at camp who he probably doesn't feel have the same respect or grief around like the destruction of nature that he's feeling so deeply.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Love nerding out about grief. We don't talk about it enough in society.
No, we don't talk about it enough. The idea of nerding out.
But these are such good examples, I think, of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Percy is amazed that Grover still wants to go. And then says, "You really think you'll be the one to find Pan?" And Grover, I think this is where he lays it out most plainly. He says, "I have to believe that, Percy. Every searcher does. It's the only thing that keeps us from despair when we look at what humans have done to the world. I have to believe Pan can still be awakened." And so I think that's also where we get a little bit of this sense of, it's like he has to hold on to this so strongly because, like, if he doesn't believe that, then he kind of believes that all is lost. And, like, there's nothing that he can do. And, like, he can't, help, like, environmentally heal the world. Right. And, like, it basically kind of shatters, like, any sense of hope for anything getting better if he doesn't believe this.
Exactly. And, like, one of the most healing things you can do around grief is, like, making meaning. And I feel like part of how he's making meaning of the ambiguous loss and of the grief he feels for the world is through his search. And I think it's like also really interesting because the conclusion is going to be, actually don't just look to one like being or deity or whatever to like save you or save nature. Like kind of like the Glinda quote I have on my wall. It's like, you've always had the power, like you've had it all along, And I think that's where we're headed, which is also, again, like a really beautiful way then to kind of put a cap on this particular journey of Grover's, of like, look how much you care, look how deeply you care, like you have that in you to make a difference and to, provide healing to the world and like more empowering him and satyrs and others who care to do something, which I think is also like a really beautiful message that we're going to get to in that. And a very empowering message. And I think like in this, I think this whole series really explores, like, through these characters, the relationships that like we have to like ideas of gods or just like people in incredible positions of power. Like you just kind of want to substitute that in for gods. And like there's this interesting thing where like the Half-Bloods are kind of having this very contentious relationship with their godly parents, whereas the satyrs have this very reverent relationship with Pan. And like, with the demigods, it's like they're used to like dealing with all the gods' problems. Like the gods are these like unreliable people who just like create problems in their lives, whereas the satyrs are like, Pan is the one who will fix all the problems. He will right all the wrongs. And I feel like in the end, everyone kind of comes to the middle around like, we have to, like, gods have to do better and we have to empower ourselves. Like basically everybody has to like chip in. Everybody has to work together to like make anything better. Because like imagine if every, and not to diminish their like search or their belief, but like imagine if every satyr who had ever gone looking for Pan had done like their own campaign of like cleaning up the world and influencing people and I don't know, like going to corporations and playing panpipes so that the CEOs would like do better, because that's really what where the root is. Like I don't know, it's interesting, right, to sort of like outsource your like action for change to this like being that hasn't been seen for 2,000 years and be like, but if he could just come back, everything would be better. And I'm like, oh my God, I totally get that. Like, that would be awesome if that was true. But like, I think that's part of what's really interesting, the contrast of the Greek mythology and our reality that's set up in these books is that like it forces us to live in the gray area of the in-between and like figure out what the balance is of that. Yeah. Right. And like how to think about accountability and how to think about like the effects of your actions and, you know, how to take, you know, ownership of your beliefs and dreams and goals. And I think that's just a really cool piece of this.
Yeah. I want to make a note for me and for us, because I was just thinking how interesting it would be to like take this but map on, instead of the gods, like corporations. Like I was just thinking about like, because it's like corporations do terrible things and it's never the person at the top or the corporation itself that has to take accountability for all the terrible things that they've done. It's always everyone else like dealing with the blowout and the fallout, the repercussions of like the repercussions. And anyways, I feel like there's something very interesting and very fascinating, both with this like demigod side of things and their relationship to gods, but also like satyrs and Pan. So yes, anyways, I feel like maybe we could put a pin in circling back to that and like and exploring that, because it does feel like those two things could be like mapped onto one another.
For sure. That would be super interesting. Yeah. But yeah, Grover has this belief, and he says he has to believe it. Every searcher does. The only thing that keeps us from despair. He has to believe that Pan can still be awakened. And Percy stares at the orange haze of the sky and tries to understand how Grover could pursue a dream that seemed hopeless. And I think, like, that is, what I'm curious about, how this sort of, like, impacts Percy on his journey and, like, when he's going on quests and things like that. But Percy draws a parallel already in this particular story and says, then again, was I any better? And he's, of course, thinking about his mom and how saving her from the underworld feels hopeless, even though that's his true goal. And so he changes the topic to ask Grover, how are we going to get to the underworld? I mean, what chance do we have against a god? Which I feel like is back to what you were just saying, like kind of a summary of most of the plot lines in these books is like, what chance do I have against a god? And Grover admits he doesn't know. But then he brings up what we were sort of talking about in the last chapter, that Annabeth and Grover were starting to talk about the language that the kindly ones had used, the Furies. And before that, Percy gets a little snippy because we haven't solidified Percy and Annabeth being on the same side quite yet. And Grover says, Annabeth was telling me, and then Percy says, oh, I forgot. Annabeth will have a plan all figured out. And I'm just like, Percy, you don't have a plan? Like, isn't it nice to have someone who's thinking a few steps ahead? Come on, man. But, you know, I think they're still kind of like jockeying for power and like figuring out their roles.
We're in the growing pains stages.
Absolutely. And we've had a rough day.
Oh, yeah. An incredibly, incredibly rough day. Where, like, they were kind of sniping at each other, you know, earlier on the way to Antiem's. And, so it's... They've had a couple of bonding moments. They've also had a number of contentious moments. And they're just coming off of a very stressful event. So,
Also, the rivalry between Poseidon and Athena was the main story that was just told to them by Antiem and kind of like focused on. So I'm sure that that's swimming in the muck of all of that too. And here, this is an interesting conversation because I feel like it's like a Russian nesting doll of conversations where we start out with like getting to the underworld, then we go into a layer about being annoyed at Annabeth. Then Grover says, don't be so hard on her, Percy. She's had a tough life, but she's a good person. After all, she forgave me. He doesn't keep going there. And Percy says, what do you mean? Forgave you for what? And Percy starts doing math. So we often say, like, he's not mathing the math, but he mathed the math.
He did, yes.
For this particular
He's
moment.
got the 2. He's reaching for the other 2.
Exactly.
And he will make 4.
He will make 4. In this case, it's 5 and 5. I was thinking about our 2 and 2, but in this case, it's 5 and 5. But now, so the next doll under that is the history of Grover and Annabeth that now we've moved into.
Yes, yes.
And Percy's like, wait a minute. I have mathed. Hold the presses.
Hold on.
Your first keeper job was 5 years ago. Annabeth has been at camp 5 years. I've figured it out.
You know those, like, the like cork boards with like 20 red strings? He's just got 2. He's got like 1 and he's got another one, but he's like so proud of himself. It's like, I have 2 red strings and they connect.
Yes. And he says, she wasn't, I mean, your first assignment that went wrong, because Grover has talked about that before. So
yeah.
Percy has put something together. We're getting one step closer to that story.
He's still missing many other, like, pieces to that pie.
Yes.
But he, you know, he's...
Like you said, the one red string has been tied from point A to point B, and we love that for him.
He's got something going on that corkboard now.
Yeah. That's so funny. It's like Percy is like the detective trying to uncover this story. It's like,
and Annabeth is like 20 steps ahead of him. She's got like 5 cork boards, and
she's for sure, always.
She's like, everything's wrong. We don't understand it. And then I feel like Grover's just like eating his cork board.
Absolutely, corkboard chips.
Yeah. He's like, oh, we're supposed to. Sorry, we're supposed to pin things.
Wait. What was I? What? And like the string is all wrapped around.
Yeah. It's like, oh, my bad.
Yes, 100%. That is what's happening. I love the image of like their 3 corkboard theory, how they would do theories. So we might need to illustrate that sometime. That's hilarious. But Grover is not going to engage in this quite yet because it's not time for Percy to hear the story. So his lower lip is quivering, suggesting that he'd cry if Percy presses him, and he says, I can't talk about it. And then we go back to the Russian doll above that and say, but as I was saying, back at Medusa's, Annabeth and I agreed that something strange is going on in this quest. Something isn't what it seems. And Snarky Percy never fully left the building, never fully left the woods at this point.
He's never fully left the building.
He's
always on
there.
standby.
He's always there.
ready to go.
Standby. Ready to go. And he says, well, duh. I'm getting blamed for stealing a thunderbolt that Hades took. At least that's as far as he knows so far. Yeah. And Grover says, that's not what I mean. The kindly ones were sort of holding back, like Mrs. Dodds at Yancey Academy. Why did she wait so long to try to kill you? Then on the bus, they just weren't as aggressive as they could have been. And Percy says, they seemed plenty aggressive to me, which as the reader, you're kind of like, bus exploded.
Well, and especially because we don't have the context of learning that Annabeth, Talia, Luke, and Grover were chased by all 3 of the kindly ones, along with a bunch of other monsters. So they actually have the reference point of when they are determined, exactly, at full force, like determined to kill you, like what they will do and what that looks like and how uncompromising they are. And so, like, I think that's really why Annabeth and Grover had that moment of like, we know what it looks like when they're not messing around and when they're actually determined to make sure you don't make it out alive of a situation. And they're like, that's not what they've been doing. And I think that combined with like Grover's about to say that they were screeching at us, where is it? Where? That they're really not starting to piece together. They're not searching for an individual, they're searching for a thing because they experienced what it was like when they were hunting down Talia.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good point. And I think that, like, even when Grover says that they were saying, where is it? And they seem to be asking about an object, Percy says, that doesn't make any sense. And Grover says, I know. And I think it's so funny because it's like there is already a missing object that they know about.
Yeah.
And so it's like, again, we could be maybe starting to add some, I bet Annabeth is adding these question marks to the board. But like, you know, there's some connections that we could be making here about the stated problem and then the hints that we're getting from these other beings along the way. And Grover says, I know, but if we've misunderstood something about this quest and we only have 9 days to find the Master Bolt. He looked at me like he was hoping for answers, but I didn't have any. Which I get. Percy, again, has been in this world all of a couple weeks at most, a week.
Not even that much.
A week, maybe?
I think about a week.
Yeah, a week. So, yeah, he doesn't have any extra answers.
No. Yeah.
Which is understandable. But I will say, hearing we only have 9 days, like, I'm already feeling anxiety about the Lotus Casino.
I know. Yeah.
Like, oh no. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, but then what's interesting is in this moment, Percy's reminded of what Medusa said, that he was being used by the gods. And he says, what lay ahead of me was worse than petrification. And I think like this questioning of like, maybe the quest isn't all that it seems is what, and that he's like having a moment alone with Grover. Like, I don't know if he would have shared this if like the three of them were up together talking.
Probably
but, like,
not.
This is Grover, his best friend, someone he knows he can trust, and they're already kind of like seeing the cracks in what they thought this quest was going to be. And so he just says, I haven't been straight with you. I don't care about the Master Bolt. I agreed to go to the underworld so that I could bring back my mother. And what's really funny is Grover just blows a soft note of his pipes and says, I know that, Percy, but are you sure that's the only reason? And I feel like this is where like Grover almost feels a little bit
therapist
like he's kind
Grover.
of, I was about to say like therapist Grover, where he's like pulling out a little notepad being like, I wonder if there may be other reasons behind that reason.
Tell me more. Tell me how you feel about that.
But Grover's like, I don't need you to tell me. I know how you feel about that.
I know.
He's like, trust me.
Trust me, I can sense it. Yeah, no, that is funny. Like, we already said he's kind of like serious, somber Grover, but he totally goes into therapist Grover mode here.
Fully. Because Percy gets very angsty 12-year-old and goes, I'm not doing it to help my father. He doesn't care about me. I don't care about him. Fully being, I'm like, he's 12-year-old to the max in this moment. And Grover just gazes down from his tree branch and goes, look, Percy, I'm not as smart as Annabeth. I'm not as brave as you, but I'm pretty good at reading emotions. You're glad your dad is alive. You feel good that he's claimed you, and part of you wants to make him proud. That's why you mailed Medusa's head to Olympus. You wanted him to notice that what you'd done. Like, I love that Grover
Therapist
just kind
Grover
of
in the
like
house.
They're like straight to the point. He's like, like, we're not doing this little dance. Like, I know how you feel, and it's not that you don't care about your dad.
Which, it's like the most annoying thing that a therapist can do is like disagree with you and tell you how you feel, especially when they're right, and it's something you don't want to admit. And I'm just like, he is nailing this. And so then Percy's reaction makes a lot of sense, and he's like, no, I'm not.
Literally. He's like, well, maybe satyr emotions work differently than human emotions, because you're wrong. I don't care what he thinks.
I don't even care at all.
I know. Grover's literally like, okay, whatever.
Right. Yeah, literally.
I'm just gonna let you do your thing, man.
I won't force you, but I know, and you know I know, and so that's what it is. Yep.
And so then they kind of like close out that conversation, and Percy's being like, I haven't done anything worth bragging about. We barely got out of New York. We're stuck here. We've got no money, like no way west. And Grover is looking up at the night sky, and like he's kind of thinking about that predicament that they're in. And then he offers to take the first watch and tells Percy to get some sleep, and Percy like wants to protest, but Grover starts playing Mozart soft and sweet. And Percy turns away, his eyes stinging. So clearly, like,
there was something.
Grover hit the nail on the head, and Percy's feeling that. And but with Grover's help of playing Mozart, he like falls asleep.
Yeah, one thing I think that stands out that makes sense is like, also, I think Percy's not feeling very good about where they're at in the quest and like his leadership and things like that. And so like Grover saying, "Oh, you want to impress your dad," and Percy being like, "With what?" Like, you know, and not, I think, having, I don't know, like I think he just kind of doesn't feel great about where things are right now. So like, even the fact that he like admits that to Grover, I think is really great. That like he's again, like we just like always talk about how they're able to be vulnerable with each other. And so even though he's pushing back on this one area of vulnerability that's like too sensitive to touch, which makes sense, he's still admitting part of it, which is like, dude, I don't even feel good about where we're at right now. Like, if I did want to impress him, I'm not sure what that looks like right now. You know? And also I really like this example of Grover. This is like a separate thing, but I like this example of Grover playing the panpipes well, because he's often like doing it in a way that's like silly or weird or doesn't sound good. And you know, it's sweet that in this like tender, like vulnerable moment that they've kind of gone through, and like they've both closed off about things that the other one has asked about. Like Grover did too when it came to the story of getting to camp with Annabeth. You know, that he's able to like play something soft and sweet that's like a lullaby, and like it's just a nice moment for the two of them. Absolutely.
And so then we get into what I think is our like longest dream segment yet.
I agree.
We are back with Kronos in a dark cavern before a gaping pit. Obviously Percy doesn't know that it's Kronos yet. And what I thought was the most interesting about this dream is the spirits of the dead that are kind of trying to protect Percy in the whole time. Like they're pulling him back from like the edge of the like the pit that he's, you know, being kind of like pulled into.
It kind of reminds me of Percy's relationship with Nico a little bit. And like I thought that this was like an interesting precursor to that.
Well, and it the other thing that it made me think of was like how misunderstood Hades is, and like whose side he would be on, because like the spirits of the dead are like, no, don't go in the pit, don't do it, like, you know. And it's like Hades would not be on Kronos's like side, you know. And but like you wouldn't expect that like leaning over a dark pit with spirits of the dead around you, you know, like that they would be like and like protecting you.
Well, and I think this is such a big hint that Percy misses, that Hades isn't the real enemy. And like also I think it's a really cool, because part of why Hades has such a bad reputation is because of the human fear of death, right? And so like it is a really cool subverting of the expectation of what like spirits of the dead would be doing, especially in a dark pit, and like, you know, that kind of thing. So I think that part's really cool too. Especially with
this like deep, like kind of ominous voice coming from like the bottom of the pit saying, "The little hero, too weak, too young, but perhaps you will do." And what's really interesting is Percy says, "The voice felt ancient, cold and heavy. It wrapped around me like sheets of lead."
I love that description.
And it made me think of when they're on the it's the Princess Andromeda, right, is the name of the boat, and he's fighting Luke, but after he's like kind of joined with Kronos, and he experiences like Kronos's like time stopping abilities, and I can't remember if he says something like it's like he's trying to walk through like molten lead, but I think there's some sort of like metallic description used for like how slowed down and like immobilized he feels.
Absolutely. I also, like, he says, yet I had a feeling something was trying to rise from the abyss, something huge and evil. And I just wrote, yes. Like,
yeah,
again,
literally.
he's like,
yeah.
Even in your dreams, your intuition is spot on. That is what's trying to happen. Good job. And, like, even later, he kind of, like, has that realization of, like, wait, it's not trying to drag me in. It's trying to drag itself out and, you know.
Through me.
So it's, like, interesting, how many hints he's getting here. In this particular dream.
Yes, that he's like fully and completely missing.
Yeah.
And so Kronos then says, they have misled you, boy. Barter with me. I will give you what you want. And he's shown a shimmering image of his mom, like the moment that she dissolved into a shower of gold. Oof. And I thought it was so interesting that, so her eyes look directly at Percy pleading go, which is like what she was doing in that moment, but it also feels like it's what she's trying to communicate to him now.
Exactly.
In this present moment of like, go, leave, no, like this is dangerous. Like,
yes. Yeah, don't come where this voice is. Don't come to this pit. Like, maybe don't even go on this quest. Like, it's not. Yeah, it's not. And nothing good is waiting for you here. But it's also, like, so underhanded and so emotionally manipulative for Kronos to be using the image of Percy's mom disappearing to manipulate him to coming or to like doing his bidding or joining his side or whatever. I feel like that's what we're seeing here. And it's like, if someone is doing that, they are the bad guy. Confirmed. No questions, you know?
No. We can put that on the board. Confirmed.
Confirmed.
That
Confirmed.
we know to be true.
Voice from pit equals bad. Bad guy. Confirmed.
That's Percy's. That's Percy's note. It's just voice from pit equals bad.
Yeah. He's got that.
He knows.
He's got that, and he's got the one red line of the 5 years equals 5 years. We got that. Yep. We're getting somewhere. One step at a time.
And then Kronos goes on to say, "Help me rise, boy." The voice became hungrier. "Bring me the bolt. Strike a blow against the treacherous gods." And so this is really like he reveals his plan.
Yeah.
Like he's so explicit about like, go get me that lightning bolt. Bring it to me. And then this is where I feel like he tries the kind of like what he did successfully with Luke, which is like twist his anger, you know, and turn it into like something that he could like weaponize and you know utilize for his own means and desires. But yeah, he's kind of trying like first with Percy's mom being like, barter with me, you know, like I'll give you your mom if you give me what I want, and then he's like, also, you know, like the gods are so treacherous. Don't you hate them so much? Don't you want to like join me?
Right. And together. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I think that like when you said like, go get me the bolt, it's even like, it's specifically, he says, bring me the bolt. And I think it's like, even that language is really, really important because bring me the bolt is because Percy already has it. You know, and so it's like, he will have it.
He hasn't gotten it from. He will have it. He hasn't gotten it. From
I just mean yet, they have a way. Right. They have a way for him to have it, but it's like he thinks he has to go get it in from Hades, is what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
And it's like he doesn't. Like he's just just going to be there. It's just going to show up in this backpack. And so I think, anyway, I just think that even the language of that is like really interesting. And also it says an invisible force pulled me forward. It would drag me into the pit unless I stood firm. So I thought that was really interesting too, because I think like standing firm is kind of a metaphor, and it goes back to this question of like, why is Percy doing certain things? And it's like, if he's not doing it purely for the gods because he doesn't believe in the gods, and like, what is he standing firm in? And like, why would he stand firm against Kronos? And that's all like what he's gonna have to unravel and explore. Yeah,
absolutely. And the spirits of the dead like start whispering around him like, no, wake, which is basically like the way that you can escape this is by waking up.
So interesting.
Mm-hmm. And he sees the image of his mother begin to fade, and the thing in the pit tightens its unseen grip around him, and he realizes this thing is not interested in pulling me in. It is using me to pull itself out, which is literally like, that's what Kronos' plan is like, okay, Ares is going to give him the backpack so that the lightning bolt shows up, so that he'll be in the underworld and he'll walk past close enough to the pit, and I can use the magic shoes to make sure basically that either Percy will walk it to me because I've like convinced him to join my side, or I'll make him bring me the bolt because you know, Luke gave him the like magic shoes that are enchanted to make sure that they come down to Tartarus.
And it seems like a foolproof plan if it weren't for the hilarious implementation of the Percy can't fly rule. Yeah. That leads him to give them to Grover.
Well, and thank goodness he gave it to Grover, who doesn't have human feet. Yep. And so the shoes are able to get knocked off of him. Yeah. And, you know, Slash more easily gets slipped off of him. Because one gets knocked off, but then they're able to like get the other one off. Because I think even just the one shoe is still pulling him.
It's still pulling him. Yeah. Just not quite as... It gives them time. It kind of buys them time.
Yes. Yeah. It really does save them. Because like if he'd given the shoes to Annabeth, screwed.
Oh, yeah.
Annabeth
100%.
Bye.
Bye.
Love you, girl. See you. Who knows?
Oh, oh my God. That's a whole other... Wow. Because one of my favorite books is House of Hades. Imagine that world where like Annabeth has been there the whole time, and like Percy or someone still ends up going to Tartarus, and then they find Annabeth like years later.
Annabeth is just like, I wanted to go on a quest, and then I ended up going
in Tartarus.
Oh my God! Like, are you kidding me?
That would.
She's
be
like,
wild.
I left the house once, and I ended up in Tartarus.
Oh my God! That alternate universe of this story is
crazy,
wild.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh! Because Kronos in that version doesn't like rise or anything, because Annabeth doesn't have the lightning bolt on her in that moment, like right away at least. So there's still time for Percy to like do something else, though who knows what he would do to get Annabeth back. Like he might go to Tartarus a lot sooner.
He might dive in after.
Well, that's one of the thoughts. Exactly. That's one of the possibilities. Ooh, that's an interesting
maybe
one.
That's like how the Super Carlin brothers did, like if Harry were Slytherin, you know, like
that would be interesting.
Annabeth had gone.
What if the what if is if Percy gave Annabeth the shoes?
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
Maybe we'll have to map that out. That would be really interesting.
That would.
Yeah.
So yes, this dream ends with Kronos murmuring "good," which is terrifying and creepy.
Because he does good too.
Well, I think in our like Luke is Anakin, like Kronos is absolutely
Kronos
Palpatine.
Is definitely Palpatine.
Kronos is fully Palpatine.
100%.
And the dead whisper, "Wake, wake!" And
which again
then
is like so interesting. I really love their role in this dream. It's like hadn't stood out to me, I think, as much in past readings, but in this one it really stood out to me.
Well, and it also really made me think of when Nico's trying to talk to Bianca, and the spirits keep on coming and being like, no, like
totally
let it go, let this rest, don't do this, we do this. It'll be interesting to like keep track of that, but I feel like in this book the spirits of the dead end up being far more like helpful, and like they're trying to be like protective.
Except for,
like
Minus or whoever, but like
yeah.
Overall, like the spirits of the dead kind of like have good consciences is what we're learning in these books. Yeah.
Yes. And so Annabeth is shaking Percy.
Yes.
Awake, and his eyes open, and it's daylight. Which my first question was, so I guess Percy didn't take a shift.
Definitely not.
Were, like,
they just let him sleep.
Shifts. They just let him sleep.
They were like, let him sleep. It's fine.
They're like, he's not used to this. We've done this rodeo before.
Yes, exactly.
We'll let him sleep.
Yeah, it's actually kind of sweet.
No, it is. It's very, very sweet. And Annabeth goes, well, the zombie lives, which is kind of funny, like, given that he was just having a dream where he was in the underworld.
With the dead? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's intentional. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And Percy is still trembling from the dream. He can still feel the grip of the chasm monster around his chest. And he asks how long he was asleep for, and Annabeth goes, long enough for me to cook breakfast. And then tosses him a bag of nacho-flavored corn chips from Auntie M's snack bar.
Funny. It's funny because, like, again, they don't have a fire. But I feel like when she says that, I'm, like, picturing... you know, in Shrek when like Fiona goes and like
literally
sings
about
to the
to
bird.
say,
really?
Yes.
And then grabs the egg and then cooks the fried egg.
Yep.
I feel like that's what makes me think of. But in this case, it's just here's a bag of chips.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
But we then learn that Grover went exploring and found himself a friend.
And found a friend. Grover made a friend.
Yep. And Percy sees Grover sitting cross-legged on a blanket with something fuzzy in his lap, and which at first he thinks is an unnaturally pink stuffed animal, but then he realizes that it's a pink poodle.
It's a pink poodle.
And Grover is having a full conversation with this little pink poodle.
And the poodle does not like Percy.
No. I feel like the poodle's like, I can tell which people think that I am like an intelligent creature and which people don't, and you don't think I'm smart, so I don't like you.
I feel like one of the themes of this chapter is just like, Percy is a basic human.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
The poodle's fully. Like, yeah, basic to Percy. Just like, no. Grover's like, so human.
Yep.
Only a human wouldn't be an environmentalist.
And the poodle's like, duh, I read the sign. Like, duh. What do you mean? How do I know if there's a reward? I read the sign. Oh my goodness. But yes, so we learn, because I don't think we knew this before, we learned that Grover can talk to animals.
I don't think we did know this before. I think it's valid that Percy's surprised by this.
Yes, no, totally. Yeah, this is new information. Yeah. You know, and again, Percy is still learning about this world. You know,
now the wording. Are you talking to that thing?
Yeah, it's rude.
This is where I'm like,
disrespectful.
Percy, that's just like disrespectful wording. Like, that's just rude.
Yeah.
So,
that's like, valid. That's a dog. You can say you're talking to that dog. You know? Like, yeah.
You could say pink dog.
Yeah.
But
that thing is that's rude.
Yeah, that's rude.
Yeah. And we learn that the pink poodle's name is Gladiola.
Gladiola. Love that.
Great name. It's a really great name. And Percy's he still thinks this whole thing is a practical joke. He's looking at Annabeth. She's not laughing. And he says, I'm not saying hello to a pink poodle. Forget it. And Annabeth is like, I said hello to the poodle. You're saying hello to the poodle. And I love that it goes, the poodle growled. I said hello to the poodle.
It's so funny.
It's great.
I feel like it's such a great example of just like really succinct humor in writing. That's just like very deliberate actions that happen, but the sequence of those actions are kind of what creates the humor out of them. You know?
Yes.
And dialogue, it's funny. Also, though, again, Percy's I know he just woke up and he hasn't had his home-cooked meal yet, but I feel like, you know, I don't know, why won't he say hello to the poodle? Like, you know? Come on, Percy.
Yeah. I feel like he's like, you know, I don't know if maybe he's just like a little grumpy, but also I feel like sometimes he can be like weirdly obstinate about like, no, I refuse to believe that this thing is real, you know, like he's like, no, I'm not dealing with it. I'm not doing it.
And you know, there's a point, at least still early in the story, like we just said, it's been like a week where you could see how certain things are going to be sort of last straws for him, where he's just like, I am overwhelmed by the world I have entered, and a pink poodle that needs me to say hello to him is like a step too far. But I'm just like, it's a poodle, Percy, just say hello to the poodle.
Just say hello. But you'd say hello to a dog otherwise, you know.
Exactly.
So just say hello to the poodle.
You'd be like, hi pup, you know, like you would say hello to a dog. But so he says hello to the poodle.
He does. And this is where we learn that basically Grover had come across Gladiola in the woods. They struck up a conversation. And basically, Gladiola was from a rich local family who'd posted a $200 reward for his return, but he didn't really want to go back to his family, but he was willing to help if it meant helping Grover, which is so sweet. And this is where we get the, how does Gladiola know about the reward? And Grover goes, he reads the signs, duh. And Percy's still, you know, I think very sarcastically goes, of course, silly me. Like, how did I not know that this pink poodle could read signs? And so we get Annabeth in her best strategy voice, which I love that description of, like,
she has whipped out the cork board.
Yep. She's got the 5-1. She's like, I figured it out. We're going to get the money. We're going to buy tickets to Los Angeles, and we're going to hit the road.
No, but she specifically says simple, which I feel like never, ever in any demigod travel quest situation of any kind could you describe what happens as simple.
No, never.
So there's a little wishful thinking here from Annabeth.
Yes.
That I love her confidence.
Oh yeah. And Percy kind of has a moment where he remembers his dream and the whispering voices and the thing in the cabin and all of that. And warily he goes, not another bus. And Annabeth is like, no, we're not doing another bus. And she points downhill towards the train tracks that Percy hadn't been able to see last night in the dark. And she says, there's an Amtrak station half a mile that way. According to Gladiola, the westbound train leaves at noon. What a helpful dog.
I know. Dog. Also read the train, schedule for us.
Yes. Yeah.
I was like, Gladiola should come along on the quest. I feel like Gladiola gives a little bit of like an R2-D2 vibe of a like, totally. I could solve any problem. I can read. I have special skills. Like, just bring me with you. So also, that's a missed opportunity.
In my brain, Gladiola gets returned and then immediately escapes again.
Absolutely.
I'll return, so you get the money, I'll give it a day, and then I'm escaping again.
I have absolutely no doubt. Like, that is my firm belief, is that that's what happens, which is why I'm like, Gladiola should be on this quest. Like, that should have happened.
Yeah.
I feel like
that's another, what if Gladiola was on the quest?
Yes, I think that would be amazing. Also, Amtrak.
I know.
I love trains. And we're going to go on a train. There's nothing more that I love than a train, and specifically an Amtrak passenger train. So that is very, very exciting for me.
Yeah. I think I probably read this book many times on an Amtrak.
On an Amtrak train. I'm sure you did. Yeah.
And I remember like reading the book and being like, oh, Amtrak shout out? Like Amtrak mention?
I know that.
And I felt like Cap in the first Avenger when he like gets the flying monkeys reference from the Wizard of Oz. He goes, I got that one.
I know that one.
I know that one. That was me reading this book. I was like, I know that one.
That one.
Like, I think the first time I read it, I did know who Hilary Duff is. Like, there were so many pop culture references that I did not know the first time I read this book. But I knew what Amtrak was.
Well, it's funny you mentioned the Wizard of Oz, too, because I think one of my primary memories in middle school of being on an Amtrak train is listening to the Wicked soundtrack over and over and over again.
Classic.
And so, like, I strongly associate that with being on an Amtrak train. So I feel like it's all.
Oh, yeah.
The connections are. My corkboard is full of red lines.
You're pulling red strings.
I'm always pulling red strings. I got nothing but red strings over here.
It's not a corkboard. It's just red. It's just layered so much.
It's just like a blanket at this point of like woven yarn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Any final thoughts? I feel like this, this was our shortest chapter. This will be our shortest episode.
Yes.
It's very, very few pages, literally. Like
the chapter itself is incredibly short. In comparison to all the other ones.
Not even 10 pages. So it's quite short. I think that there's some like emotional depth to it. I think that there's a really nice introduction of Kronos and some hints about the underworld and Hades and the dead. We have a little pause point after our last like big battle, which is always really helpful. And we know like how we're gonna get forward to get some money, which is convenient at this point because we're just stuck with no fire and wet clothes in the woods. Like we got a few drachmas, I think, from Antiem, and that's not
we
too
got
much
a little
else,
bit from
and some
Antiem.
chips. So I feel like we're really, it's really too bad none of them know how to cook something, because it seemed like she probably had plenty of burgers and things, but I can imagine being 12, you might not know your way around like an industrial kitchen. And a fryer. That would probably not have gone well. But yeah, we have some hope, we have some direction of where we're going next, and that's nice. But any themes or thoughts that you pulled from this one?
Yeah, I think it mostly just felt like a really nice kind of like respite after like both the bus and then the fight with Medusa. Like it was kind of two really big, like intense things back to back. And so this felt like a nice kind of like, okay, we can take a little sigh. Like they're not doing the best. Like they're kind of stranded and, before they meet the most incredibly helpful Gladiola, and they're like don't really know how they're moving forward, but it is nice that like they're able to, I think especially because it's at nighttime, like they actually get to rest and like kind of recuperate a little bit, like kind of figure everything out, get themselves like sorted and together.
And we learn about Pan.
And we learned about Pan, and we got another really lovely, like, Percy and Grover, just best friends, like...
We got therapist Grover for the first time.
And so I love that we got, like, a nice longer moment with them, and the dream is so interesting, and then, it was definitely, like, an Annabeth light chapter.
Yes, she's snoring through most of it.
Yeah, she's kind of conked out. For most of the chapter, but I think it was kind of a nice like pause, like moment of reflection, before we then kind of restart like
the next leg
quest
of the journey. Move ahead. And we got visited by Charlie, my cat.
Yes,
which was
we
lovely.
did.
And Charlie wants to tell all of you to subscribe and like the video and leave a comment. And he would love any like 5-star reviews on the podcast apps. He's currently curled up showing his belly in appreciation of everybody who does all those things. So thank you in advance to the folks at home who love Charlie.
Thank you, Charlie, for remembering to say all of that.
I know. He's the best. He's kind of like got Gladiola vibes today.
Maybe that's why he was really insistent. He,
I was thinking that. It's
like
all about like nature and the poodle. And he's like, I don't want this poodle to steal all of the pet animal thunder today. Let me in on that. So anyway, I enjoyed this chapter. It's kind of fun to have that little light moment, some emotional time, get some hints here and there as well. Move the story forward, and I am excited for next week when we read possibly one of the most ominous chapter titles. Aptly chapter 13. I plunge to my death.
Bye.
Bye.